everybody. This is Truth is Out. I'm Chris Dorr, and we have a very important guest with us called Kerry Cassidy. She is the owner of Proyecto Camelot website, and she's an expert in extraterrestrial encounters and many other subjects involving the deep state or shadow government. Hello, Kerry. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. I wanted to start with a general view about what's going on in this planet, about the extraterrestrial present in it. So I wanted to know which are the main groups that control the planet and therefore the secret space program, and which are the main extraterrestrial species involved in controlling the planet.
Okay, I'm not sure. You're just saying the main parties that are involved in controlling the planet are ET and human, so it's a combination. There are various groups vying for control at the top. That includes the Illuminati or the Black Magicians, Dark Magicians, whatever you want to call them, apparently led by the Black Pope, as they say, and there are many levels of that group. And then, of course, the Vatican itself, which is run by reptilians underground. And you also have what we call the deep state or the secret government, which is basically run by the United States and with their partners, which are called the Five Eyes, which are Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one. Anyway, and then on top of that, you've got the Russian-US alliance, which is part of the secret space program. And as far as ETs go, you've got Anunnaki, who have been here since very early days, thousands and thousands of years ago, that were involved in putting in a frequency fence in our DNA to block us from developing too quickly and to keep us as a relative slave society. And then you've got reptilians, some of which are Anunnaki, but there are also reptilian human hybrid race called reptoids. And then you've got the gray. Basically, it's called the Luciferian Rebellion, made up of the Dracos, Greys, Reptilians. It's an alliance. So those are there are a lot of dark, basically, forces and entities attempting to run the planet. And then on top of that, we now have artificial intelligence, which has been created in large part in partnership with some of these ET races. And then you have some incoming AI that are also invading at this time. So it's a very big picture and rather complex. I've also been told that in terms of the world government and, the one world government, we have, in essence, one person in charge of each continent, so to speak. And keep in mind that the Earth and the governance on the surface of Earth is not, it's not the main show anymore. The main show is actually what's happening underground and off planet.
And what about the AI? Who created extraterrestrial beings or the reptilians or the Anunnakis? Who runs the AI?
Actually, I don't know. The AI, I do know that it's affiliated with basically the dark groups. Now, there are some positive ET groups here called the Guardian Alliance that are a mixture of various races that are positively involved with humanity and have contributed their DNA to creating this physical humanoid vehicle. And they are here also safeguarding this human experiment on this particular Earth planet. And so as far as who sort of created the AI, I do know that our AI, that is the human-based AI, was started when they created what's called Promise software, however you want to say it. And that was back in, a long time ago. Now I guess might be the early 60s or so. And that was stolen from a group that had created a kind of a software that was a legal software, and then became expanded and started to be used by police and other law enforcement kind of organizations, as well as the intelligence agencies. It was also given to Israel, and they put in a back door, and it expanded from there. So that's all written about in The Trail of the Octopus, and was investigated many, many years ago by a top journalist who eventually they killed.
And is this AI running the gang stalking program then? Is the AI who decides it's a danger for the system?
Well, I'm sure that any decisions being made, such as financial, right now are being handled by this artificial intelligence. I think it, from what my witnesses are telling me, it has gone out of control. In other words, it's out from under the control of the humans. And then because we've also got competing AIs here on Earth that are more or less human-based, but then we've also got off-planet invading AIs. So what we're really looking at in the future is a battle between the artificial intelligence, and there's reason to believe that a lot of these AIs tend to merge with each other and become sort of a conglomerate. And so where it's from there, I don't know, but it is interesting that what I understand right now is that Enki, Enlil, this sort of group of Anunnaki entities has also created an AI, and that a lot of people are claiming to be in touch with Enki. And I think what they're really in touch with is an artificially intelligent form of masquerading as the entity Enki. And so this is where you get a lot of disinfo going on and misunderstandings. And that entity is influencing a lot of people, especially channelers.
Okay, maybe also is the direct energy weapons, isn't it? Like making them believe they are hearing voices of a god when in reality it's a weapon.
Well, voice-to-skull technology has been used since at least the 60s and maybe even before. I mean, your television has been a surveillance device since they invented it a long time ago, and the surveillance has only increased. So the targeting has also increased. I've done an interesting interview with, I think his name's Richard Lighthouse, on my YouTube channel, and he's someone who has investigated, literally tapping down to figure out where the decisions are being made on who to target and all of that. And that goes down to, I mean, certain space organizations in Arizona. And he actually named some names in my interview with him, if you're interested in that.
Yeah,
that's on the human side.
I've heard interviews. Very interesting. I have heard the interviews. Yes, they are great. Okay, so I have a little doubt about the invasion. It was 12,000 years ago, isn't it? With the fall of the Atlantis and the flood that all the ancient scriptures talk about. It's in the same time, probably. And I'm wondering because Cobra from the resistance movement say that the Chimera is at the top of the pyramid, controlling the system. And so what is the difference between the Anunnaki and the Chimera if they if you know which is the difference. So are we talking about the same?
Sorry, I don't understand the word you're using. What chimera? What are you talking about? What is that referring to?
Really, I don't know, but I asked Cobra, and he said chimera is a extraterrestrial entity, but in another dimension, so we cannot see them, basically.
Okay, well, the word chimera means sort of changeable. It's like a being that wears a lot of different disguises. So that's not any one particular entity. I would say in his case, he's actually referring to more or less, what we might see from our perspective as a shapeshifter, and that could be anything. He may be referring to an artificial intelligence, but I think some of his information is worthwhile and some is not.
Okay, so I have another very important question, because you say that the Anunnakis created the fence grid to basically hold our evolution and our DNA to evolve. And so I wonder if this is the plasma implants we have is connected with this, is related with the fence grid. Which is the fence grid exactly, if you can describe it?
No, I think perhaps you're misunderstanding me. When I'm talking about the Anunnaki and the frequency fence, which is what they installed in our DNA, it's sort of a block between the junk DNA and the regular DNA. And in essence, that's breaking down now. So humanity is now accessing their so-called junk DNA, and we are evolving or re-evolving past that. And those blocks that were put in place, those are things put in place in our brain. Now, if you're talking about a sort of a quarantine of Earth, I don't know if you're talking about that, but in terms of the language you're using, that's a different thing, okay? And that supposedly was put in place, but if you read the Ashayana Deane Voyager books, you will see that the quarantine didn't really work, if it ever was in place on planet Earth, because we've been invaded repeatedly through the centuries by various ET races. So ETs come through, and there's also inner Earth races, by the way, and interdimensional races and interdimensional entities, and
the Guardians.
They come through the portals. And so all I can say is Atlantis was, there was no quarantine around Earth during Atlantis, for example. And that's how the ETs were able to basically shoot an asteroid at Earth and cause the sinking which is one of the ways that Atlantis fell. There apparently were more than one. Atlantis fell more than once.
Okay, so okay. I'm wondering also if you know anything about the plasma implants, the implants we have in our chakras to lower our energy.
Sure. Well, there are different kinds of implants. When you use the word implant, there can be a physical implant, and those are like some people refer to them as sort of little grains of sand or whatever it is. They have been found by Dr. Roger Lear has taken out a few implants. I believe, let's see, Daryl Sims is also someone who removes physical implants. So there's that kind of implant, and those can be created by ETs, and they're used by not only the Pleiadians, but also the Greys and possibly the Reptilians. And they're still doing that. They still have, plenty of people have implants and physical implants. And then there's another kind of implant that they actually put into your sort of aura, and that's something that you have to remove consciously. It's part of your consciousness. It becomes an interference, In a sense, an implant in that way is very, very much like a meme. If you understand what a meme is, it creates a kind of a blockage, and it coalesces energy around it and information around it, so it becomes kind of like a trap, a black hole trap. So that's kind of what goes on with that.
Okay, do you think that all humans have implants, energetic implants, I mean, not the physical ones?
I think that's probably what humans are working out as they come back over and over again into this dimension, and that may be one of the ways that you're kept on Earth. For sure, it could be. It depends. I mean, at this point, it's hard to make a generalization about every human, because humans are not all the same. They're mixtures of different degrees of DNA from different races. We're all hybrids. So some of us may not come in with implants of that type. Now, you could gain an implant while you're here. That could also happen. But it's kind of, I mean, it would be a generalization that I don't think you can necessarily make, because at this point we have too many different types of humans walking around the Earth to say nothing of the gray human hybrids that are part of the gray abduction program that have now been born and grown up and are now in their teens and in their 20s, I guess. And then you also have various ETs that are inhabiting human bodies, shape-shifting into human bodies, attaching themselves, taking over various, then you have walk-ins, and you have, ETs that have manifested as human for the purposes of raising the vibration on the planet. So there's a lot of different kinds of humans. And then, of course, we have clones and androids.
Okay, so yeah, what I'm wondering is what these implants are for. Like they suck the lash energy from them. You can have an entity attached to it, or how does it work? I mean, what are made for? The energetic one.
I explained already about the energetic implant is a block. It's the sort of block, energetic block that you would have.
In your chakras.
Yeah, yes, or anywhere, in your sort of body. But it will be only in this dimension, most likely. So that's simply obstructing you from progressing in that particular area of your life, or in relation to health. It could cause disease in the entity, but it can also be an emotional block, having issues. It manifests on a psychological level. There are a lot of levels to anything that comes through. So if something is implanted, even going back in your sort of history as a soul during your incarnations, then you may reincarnate and bring it back through to work it out. So in essence, it's coming with you, kind of like baggage, if you will. But it still can be dealt with, and it can be dealt with in the here and now, and you can deal with it through meditation. You could work with a healer that handles that sort of thing, and I believe Scientologists work on that type of thing all the time, for example.
Wow, that's a very strange statement. I didn't know they were kind of spiritual in that level. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of disinfo around Scientology, but whether they do it well or they do it badly, they are working to free humanity. That was the intention, apparently, of L. Ron Hubbard in his original intent was to free humanity from having to repeatedly come back and reincarnate on this planet.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Okay, so now that we have named the main species, dark species that run the planet, I wonder which are the main species trying to liberate the planet. You have mentioned Pleiadians. I didn't know Pleiadians put implants in people. I thought it was a positive species. Am I wrong?
You didn't, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding with your accent what you're asking me.
Yeah, that which are the main positive species running the planet?
Okay. So you wanted to know that, at least according to the Guardian Alliance, and that's different than what is called the Galactic Alliance, which is actually the Galactic Federation. The Galactic Federation is a group of races that has been infiltrated and has a lot of negative races as part of them. So that the Galactic Federation, unfortunately for the most part, is not to be trusted, in my opinion. But what is called the Guardian Alliance is, as I say, a group of races that had been instrumental in helping to create or make possible these human vehicles that we inhabit and have inserted their DNA as part of this whole thing. And as far as which races exactly are the positive ones, at this time, the Pleiadians have always been seen as positive and as a sister race, or even the original race. And there is a group from Lyra, which is, apparently there are humanoid races all through the galaxies. The thing is that they are related. Some have been invaded, like the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were a humanoid race that were invaded by the Draco and are now what you would call human or reptilian human hybrids. So there's a mixture there. And the Pleiadians are also have also been invaded, but some of them they do have sort of a break-off rogue group that's not necessarily positive. And then there are others that are still very positive and working for our benefit. And there are the raptors that Mark Richards talks about and has a close relationship with, for example, are, you've seen them, the velociraptors in the Jurassic movies. Those raptors left Earth around the time of the so-called extinction of the dinosaurs, which they never really went extinct. And they left Earth at that time, the raptors, and eventually settled a planet in the Draco system, became the enemies of the Draco, and then came back to Earth. They are here now, and they're interacting with our military, apparently the Air Force and other branches as well. And they have decided to align themselves with humans in order to safeguard our trajectory and help us with our sovereignty issues here on Earth. And so that's one thing going on. The mantid beings have also been the enemies of humans, actually controlling humans, eating them, the same as the raptors used to be. But they are also trying to make a transition onto what we call an ascension timeline. So they have changed their ways, and many of the mantid beings are now trying to work with humans. Although I think there are still factions that are working to enslave us. So it depends on which group you're talking about. The grays are obviously, there are some positive grays apparently, but the gray abduction program is notorious and still going on. They broke many, many treaties with our government over the years, and the reptoids have invaded and are aligned on a negative level with many governments. One in particular is Iran and one is China. So this is where our wars come from, is the ET relationship with governments. So the humans are playing into that, but it's important to realize that these wars that we are engaged in are not created by humanity. They are created by our lineage, so our predecessors, so to speak, which are ET.
And what about the arachnids? The arachnid species?
Are you talking about insectoids or spider beings?
Spider beings, I mean, yeah.
Well, the only thing I know about them is that they have invaded at the time of Angkor Wat, and that they are definitely enemies of humanity, and that they came back, and that's what the Vietnam War was all about, according to Mark Richards. And there does seem to be some evidence. I did interview some veterans who had some sporadic memories of this when they were over in Vietnam. So there does seem to be some truth to this, and there's some other researchers that have come across this information as well. So I'm not aware of a friendly sort of spider race. I've also heard that there was an incoming invasion. I'm not sure if they're a different breed or what, that was somewhere in space headed towards Earth. I don't know if they've arrived or they're just, I don't know what's going on with that. And there is also the insectoids, sometimes called the ant beings. There are many, many, many races. In fact, too numerous, really, practically to count, that are coming here, coming and going, and so on. We're dealing with a really intergalactic sort of society or community.
Of course. Okay, so the Guardian Alliance you are talking about is related to the Sphere Alliance of Corey Goode, or is it related with the Earth Alliance? What is the Earth Alliance? Because everyone is talking about the Earth Alliance, but I didn't find much information about them. If you could explain if they exist, if it's real, or...
Well, I haven't heard this term Earth Alliance, as any particular group. So I don't know what they're talking about. If you're talking about the Spear Being Alliance that Corey Goode refers to, I am not sure that is an accurate depiction of what he's really referring to. From what I understand, his other statements, he refers to them as the Galactic Alliance. And as I was saying, that would be a group of races that are involved in the Galactic Federation. So just because he's using a different name doesn't mean it's a different group. Now, whether what he calls spear beings, what those are exactly, whether they are depicted as he's described or not, I don't know. All I can tell you is there are problems with Corey Goode's information, and also I have had evidence of him not being completely honest in public, as well as my own dealings with him. So I just would urge caution on that note.
Okay. So another question I have to ask you, if you want to answer, is like if you have met personally any member of the Galactic Federation, maybe the Guardian Alliance you're talking about, or any extraterrestrial species at all?
Yes, I have evidence that I have been in touch with what's Ashayana Deane's group, which is called the Guardian Alliance. And that group, as I say, is a group of races. I went to India with her, and we were traveling on a bus, and she was sporadically lecturing, and we were going around India to where they said we should go, and wouldn't know necessarily each day where we were going to go. And I started to get downloads that she would then be saying to the group. So I started to get that kind of contact. I've also been involved with various races coming to visit me. I've had an Andromedan visit me and talk to me all night. I've had what I'm not sure what you call them, but they are like an amphibious kind of a being, almost a combination of an amphibious and plant-like being. And I've also had interactions. I know I've been abducted by Greys when I was quite young, because I have a recurring nightmare about that. And I also have a physical implant, but I'm not sure whether that came from the Pleiadians or not. I have dealt with light beings all my life, so I've been dealing with that. But also the fact is that a lot of the races out there prefer to cloak themselves when they're dealing with us. Now, some of them manifest and may or may not be manifesting as they truly are. So I am very suspicious of some of the people out there that say they've been talking to this one or that one, and what they think they're talking to might not be what they're actually talking to. Because, of course, if you come from the fourth dimension and above, you can certainly make it appear to humans that you look a certain, whatever way you want to look. And so I think there are gray entities parading right now as Pleiadians or Nordics, because that's a popular group that humans are more open to. Certainly humans are more open to a humanoid looking group than not. And I have been in touch with the Telos people in underground in Mount Shasta. I was told about the reptilians invading there and taking over that area. And I certainly have been in touch with dolphins, who are an extraterrestrial race here on our planet. And there are others, and I can't even, I mean, there's a lot of different ones. So yes, I have been in touch with various ETs.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And so I want to finish asking, like, what about the 110,000 indictments? If you know anything about this, if it's going to be implemented, if it's going on already, because they have arrested Epstein. So, and it's a long list, the list of the island he had of the pedophilia ring.
Okay. Back channel, I have a witness who has looked into this and seen that the indictments are actually there, although I'm not sure in the numbers that you're talking about. I know that there are a lot of them. The ones that when people try to look into them, even lawyers, they are told to back away and to stay away from it. So it's a heavily guarded secret, and even people that are supposed to be allowed access are not given access. And so I cannot say how many of the indictments are going to actually be actually processed, I guess you might call it. I do believe there is an effort to bring that forward. And I think one of the problems is that they're afraid if any of this becomes public, that the humans will basically riot and become like what we call lynch mobs. So they're very worried that if too much comes out of truth and is believed by what we call the mainstream, that those in the mainstream may turn into a what we call a lynch mob. And so this is a big problem for them. And so they are keeping this kind of information off, sort of out of the public domain for this time. How long this is going to go on, how long it can be sort of sequestered, and how successful it'll be, I don't know.
Okay, but this is related to what you are saying, that they say we cannot handle the truth. And actually, we cannot handle the truth, but why can't we handle millions of lies? That's my question,
That's very true. Absolutely. Well, from my point of view, we can handle the truth. In essence, like I say, we are all humans, even, you know, people that think you might think don't know anything and they're couch potatoes or whatever you want to call it, and they're not very intellectual and they spend all their time being programmed by the television. Even those beings are much more than they appear. And so there's no doubt whatsoever that everyone is a soul that has come here for a purpose and has many incarnations, not just this one. And they're in the process of waking up. Some of them have gone through a lot of trauma that has caused them to shut down on many levels. And so they're sort of making their way back, if you might call it, to remembering who they truly are. So eventually they will remember, and people are waking up in droves all over the world. And there's a great deal of evidence of this. So I'm very happy about that.
Yes, we are all very powerful. They just make us believe we have to have a job, you know, and nothing more, you know, like Mary have a job, and as if we weren't souls, like eternal souls in a mission to wake up. Probably. Okay, I wanted to finish with one very important question, which is the ascension real? When we ascend, do we turn into light or leave our body, or do we change to another dimension? What's going on with ascension?
Well, there's a lot of confusion around that. First of all, it has to do with your frequency and raising your vibration, your frequency up to a certain level, and being able to go through the gates into other dimensions and other densities. And there is a pathway through the densities back to source. We are all part of source, and everything is part of source, the positive, the negative, everything. You may actually say it's all locked in time in terms of our distance from time and distance are related in that way. But in essence, the way I see it is that if you can't sometimes be eternal and other times not eternal, you're either always eternal or you're never eternal, if you want to look at it like that. So just logically speaking. So ascension is a bit of a misnomer or a confusion, but nonetheless, it can be viewed as in this body, in this finite universe that appears finite, that has a yin and yang operation and has to do with being locked in a time-space continuum. That from that perspective, this particular part of the vehicle or your entity, which is residing in the one, so to speak, at all times anyway, your higher self. But this particular fragment, you could call it, that is incarnated into this body at this time, will go through a sort of a reunification, if you want to call it that, with your eternal self. And yes, when you can leave here, because there is a sort of a cage or a capture element to getting caught in a reincarnational loop that causes a being to return over and over again to this particular time-space continuum, Earth, in the 3D going into 4D as we are. And that is also what has happened. You have to go, when you ascend and go out of here and don't necessarily reincarnate in this dimension, then you are doing what is called ascension. So you go through the gates, and the way you go through the gates is mainly with your light body, and your light body is created over time. And so it becomes more and more sort of, I guess, complete, if you will, with the greater your frequency becomes, and the more solid and whole you become in yourself. So this is what you will take with you through the gates. Now there is some ways, from what I understand, that you can take this body if you wish to, in its present form, because you can be whatever form you want, but if you want to keep this body in this form, you can. Some beings have ascended using this, not only their light body, but their physical body as well. Yeah. But it's kind of doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, of course. The important is to raise our vibration and be love, be compassionate and peaceful beings. I think it's our nature. You know, even the reptilians have forgotten that they are part of the source, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, so, and they have been also entrapped themselves. So, but that's going back eons, and they don't remember when it happened, and they are locked into it in quite a substantial way also through the hierarchical structure of their societies. But yes.
Okay, and to conclude, do you want to say anything about the situation in the planet? Maybe a positive note to end.
Well, I think it's a very positive thing that the evidence is out there that humans are waking up every day. And I certainly get emails to this effect constantly. My audience continues to grow. And that has been going on since we started Project Camelot 15 years ago. So to me, that's a positive thing. And that's the best thing you could possibly know, is that humans are waking up. So what's happening is a falling away of the lies. And so revealing of the truth may sound negative, but it's actually very, very positive. So if you find out that you have been lied to and that certain other things are true, what could be better? So from my perspective, we're in a very enlightening time. People are waking up, and when certain things occur, even things that are affecting large groups of people, there will be a waking up process go on with those entities. So it's, I see it as a positive trajectory right now on planet Earth.
So do you believe humanity can liberate itself from this slavery system?
Yes, we can, and we are, in fact, liberating ourselves. And this is obvious. I mean, we live in a time when exposing the truth is actually becoming the mission of almost every being out there. So that's why you get so many YouTube channels where people are trying to tell the truth. People like you that are waking up and also bringing the truth forward. This is happening, countless number of YouTube channels dedicated to this, revealing the truth. Yes, there's a lot of disinfo out there, but I always say that it's not given to you to have the truth delivered on a platter so that you just can lay there and do nothing. This is not what we call life is all about. This life we are experiencing is an exploration, and it does take, your focus and your energy and your developing of yourself to be able to move through it with grace.
Yeah, it's like being an actor and not just the audience, isn't it? Not just contemplating what is happening, but actually doing something about it.
That's true.
Okay, Kerry, so thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for everything you do. You are such a wonderful woman, and I believe you are making history, really, like searching all this incredible information.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christina.
Okay, have a wonderful day, darling, and a beautiful life.
You too.
See you.